In this video, I'm going to talk about the importance of balance post early retirement. Now, I call it early retirement. The reality is I've actually now embarked on a portfolio career, which is keeping me busier than ever. And the reality is that when you leave the corporate world and pursue a portfolio career, there's some very different things that you need to consider. And having balance is probably one of the most important things that you can focus your time on. Because in the corporate world, you pretty much have a very well-structured day-to-day set of activities. You've obviously got the 9 to 5 that's very well structured for you. And many of the tasks are fed to you either up from your team because they're requirements that you need to keep on top of, or downward from your manager or the executive or whoever is, monitoring what you're doing on a day-to-day basis based on goals, objectives, and all those things. You will have some personal things to achieve, but generally they're all in pursuit of corporate goals. When you have a portfolio career, that's quite different because you're now relying on producing your own goals. You set your tasks on a day-to-day basis, but keeping that balance, I think, is very difficult. And there are 5 things that I want to talk about that enable you to keep that balance, keeps you productive, but also supports your level of freedom and well-being, which is super important. So the first thing is prioritize what matters. Every day needs to have a well-structured set of priorities. I tend to do this the day before, and I make sure that I have a routine in place. So what does that mean? Well, every day I go to the gym, so that's my first priority. Non-negotiable, I make sure I go to the gym. The second thing is I will find time to get some steps in. And I'm doing that right now. There's lots of statistics now that show that, sitting down most of the day is the new smoking. So, finding time to walk every day is important. I always get my steps in on the morning and most afternoons, unless something comes up, I find time to fit that in as well. Now, I get the fortunate I'm able to do this on a beautiful beach where I live, but this was purposeful, right? I decided that if steps were going to be important, I'd want to do this on one of the most beautiful beaches that I can find, and that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. So that's the first thing. The second thing is leveraging AI agents. We haven't talked about leveraging AI a lot on this channel, but it is one of the key things that when managing a portfolio career becomes really important. Now, agents have pretty much only really come into the forefront of most people's consciousness in the last 6 months, I would say. I think if you're in the tech world, you've probably been using AI agents maybe for the last 12 months. And because I come from the tech world, I'm pretty advanced in that. And it's a very small number of people that are actually using them. So if you follow me and subscribe on this channel, you'll get to learn how to use AI agents, not just for your day-to-day leadership, but how to run a portfolio career and the businesses that are involved. So I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing in that space as well. It's become a real game changer, not only for managing my day-to-day tasks, but managing genuine projects and building things of value, both in terms of assets and other things. And I'll talk about that. And this is not using chat and asking a question. This is agents actually doing the work like human beings would do. The third thing is schedule leisure. Do you know what? If you're not careful, every day just slips past and you get to the end of the day or end of the week or end of the month even and realize that you've really not found any time to do anything that included any leisure time. And if we spend every day and forget to include that, the weeks, the days, the weeks, the months, the years slip by and all you've done is work. Well, what was the point in that? So find time. And I always say, most days, because I enjoy spending time with my family or my wife, well, my wife is my family, that, we'll have a coffee pretty much every day together, whether that's sitting down in the house in our beautiful balcony, which overlooks the ocean, or we'll go for a walk on the beach and then go for a coffee. We just find time in our day-to-day. Now, not every day. There are some days that do get missed, and that's because both of us have a stack of priorities that we've already decided that are important for that day, and we're going to focus on them. But those things are important, the leisure side of things. By the way, make time for rest in that leisure time as well. Meditation is a big thing for me, and I count that as a leisure activity, but it's also a rejuvenation thing as well. Establish the business fundamentals. This is the fourth thing. Now, you can't continue to deliver on a portfolio career if you haven't actually established the business. And it's pretty much one of the first things that you need to do. So establishing the business means setting up a company, getting on board a great accountant, putting a website together. The website needs to have lead magnets, it needs to have offers, there's lots of ways to structure that. And if you have a look at my website, you'll see that it's structured in a very specific way. So if you haven't had a chance to see that, have a look at darrenargyle.com, darrenargyle.com, and in there, and I'll put that link in the description, have a look at my website. I literally set the whole thing up with AI agents, and I use my own story and narrative to help build it in the background. So they helped as implementers, and I was the designer. So have a look at that. It's a beautifully designed website. It's taken me probably no more than a couple of days to actually build, which is interesting, with no software design skills of my own, just using agents. And right now, as I'm speaking to you, those agents are now deploying it to a hosting website because I've just refreshed it all. And they manage literally everything. So that's establishing the business fundamentals. You also think about, the transactions. So how does all that work, in terms of payments? I would suggest using Stripe as a payment platform. It's the most convenient and most well used. And if you're trading internationally, which you will globally on a platform, then you want to be using Stripe. So make sure you've got that set up. And the fifth thing is automating prospecting. Look, if you're running a portfolio career, some things will automatically fall into your lap because they're already established, and Cyber Leadership Institute was one of those things that was already established years before me leaving the corporate role. Having said that, I do a lot of prospecting within that business, but I'm talking about prospecting to find other income sources. That's already an income source. I'm just building on that. So I'm doing a non-exec director role within that space, and I'll talk about that. So I have for a long time used ChatGPT for a majority, Perplexity for a lot of my research, and occasionally been using Claude. But now I have to say, at this particular stage, I'm still using all three of those platforms, but I'm using them in very different ways. And when it comes to prioritizing my day, I'll talk about how I'm doing that. So first thing is prioritizing. Then all I've got to do is the next day is just action them one by one. And then at the end of the week, I do a consolidation to make sure that all those things relate back to the goals that I set myself. For example, one of the big priorities that I spend time on each day is the book that I'm writing. Now, book writing is one of those big, strategic, big ticket items that requires incremental time. I recently went on a trip to South Australia. We have a camper trailer, my wife and I tried to fit it in there. That was my leisure time, by the way. It didn't really work, so I didn't get much done. But finding time to do the book. Books are very interesting, and I'll do a video specifically on how to use AI for book writing specifically. Helps build you the templates, gets you ready for self-publishing. And that's a very interesting area, and it's moved on massively. Because the reality with things like books, by the way, and just to give you a quick tip on this, most people use editors and they literally change everything to the way the editor wants it to be written. So I don't know why you'd ever use an editor in that way, because it's then just your story in their voice, and you don't need to do that anymore. So I will do a video on book writing specifically, but I've got now very clear templates and structure for writing a book. And you know, I'm about 50% through a book, and I've literally done that in a few months. And this is not AI writing the book, this is me writing the book, but AI asking the questions and doing the coaching, and that's very different. And Claude Code. Claude Cowork, for those that are not aware, and I will do a video on this specifically, is almost like managing your day-to-day with multiple agents. So you can set it off running tasks and it will produce things for you, set up schedules, things like automating LinkedIn posts, social media, coming up with regular scripts, but doing the research for you and then pulling that back into the platform and giving you some genuine output in HTML. It can fill out full files, create HTMLs for you. But you just have to give it a folder to work in on your desktop. The real game changer for me has been the flexibility of using Claude Code. And this is literally can build you apps, websites, and those AI agents are extremely quick. So for an example, not only am I, as we're speaking, my website is being uploaded to a hosting site and being configured with Stripe, the payments, and it's testing it all. But I've also got a back-end database, a CRM. Now, we can buy customer relationship management tools off the internet, but they cost money. So there's some open source tools that you can use for CRM, but configuring them can take time. But once they're done, they're much quicker. So you can host these CRM tools on an AWS platform, but downloading and uploading it to Amazon, clicking that configuration over to your website and your email is very complex. AI agents, specialist agents, can do that for you. So set that up, get it running, make sure you've got the right security safeguards in place. That will be super important. But that's what's happening right now. And by the time this video is finished, I'll go home, check, and that should be done. I'll report back on just how well they've produced that. So I've just come back off a trip to South Australia. That was a fantastic opportunity to have some real leisure time. It's easy to just continuously work, but if you have a portfolio career, you can create gaps in your time that you wouldn't be able to do as a corporate employee. So I've been able to reduce that down to literally days and weeks that I can have off that I just wouldn't be able to have off in the corporate world. So now I'm able to schedule my time. So I can schedule 2 or 3 weeks off. We can just go off on a trip whenever we want and not have to worry about, booking holiday. I've done that quite often since leaving the bank. And, I don't know how many weeks and months I've had off, but it's far more than you'd get off and not having a normal job that they just wouldn't allow you. And that's one of the massive constraints, by the way, of having a corporate career. And by the way, you can still continue to work on things in the background, but you do that in your own pace and you don't have calls set up, for example. Really important to set those in, and that's something we're using our camper trailer for. Establishing the business fundamentals. I mentioned this at the start as, having an accountant and a business set up as an entity means that you'll reduce your tax burden. Now, there's a massive difference between working for a company and having your own company in terms of what you can offset against tax burdens. And this is underestimated, and one of the things that most people are employed just have no idea. This is especially important if you work and live in a country where you pay up to 50% tax. So for example, the UK and Australia, two places that I've lived and worked in, they're pretty close to 50% tax now. So having the opportunity to have your own business means that when you purchase something, whether it's software, hardware, or anything to do with your business, you can offset that against the tax, which makes a massive difference. This means that you don't end up paying the 50% tax burden that you have on a large corporate job. So really important. So it's like when I take on portfolio work, I'm not doing employment work, I'm doing contract work. And that makes a massive difference because everything is going through my business. So you need to set that up structurally properly. You do need a website, and the website is obviously going to be your holding place. And we've obviously got these set up for all our businesses, Cyber Leadership, my own business. I've got Phoenix Blaze Ventures, and obviously my own darrenargyle.com website. Just set these up professionally because it is your shop window. You can now use AI tools to optimize these in terms of SEO as well. So get the agents to do that. And that means that organic traffic will be coming your way as well. There's so much to be gained from using AI agents to get your portfolio career up and running. And once it's established, there's lots of automations. And the last thing, I talked about automating prospecting, but do you know what? We've got lots of activities to do on a day-to-day basis in terms of managing your portfolio career. There's obviously servicing the customers that you've got, but there's also new customers that you want to attract. Now, this is not about going out and doing calling people or getting a list and doing 20, 30 calls a day, or even sending direct emails to people. That's dead. You should be building your own portfolio in terms of newsletters, social medias. So you're creating this kind of organic reach. So at the moment, that the point at which you do need to reach out to somebody, they're already warmed up to who you are. And this is very underestimated. So making sure that your LinkedIn posts are going out on a regular basis, your YouTube channel, like this one, regular videos are going out, you have an email distribution list, you're sending out regular updates either in your newsletter or even offers that you've got. But all that needs automating. But that's prospecting. But I think of it more as organic prospecting rather than direct reach out. You'll be surprised once you get your presence out there just how many of these things come in naturally. Just the other week, a speaking gig came in, and I did ask them where they found me, and they said, oh, they found me directly on the website. So that was an organic search that they'd done on Google. I fill the front page of Google. And by the way, if you listen to more of my videos on personal branding, that's what you need to be doing too as well. Focusing on how can you build your personal brand so that you come up and fill the page on Google. Okay, well, that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll cut it up into a few shorts so you can get some of these snippets. But those are the 5 things. If you've not subscribed already, please do, because I'm going to be going deeper into things like AI agents, setting them up, and they will be super important for you and how you grow your portfolio career. I'm going to be going into a lot more detail about personal branding, so put that in as well. Yeah, so subscribe, like, more videos coming out so that you can exit your corporate career on your terms and have a portfolio career that gives you back your freedom and reclaim your health. Darren, out.